Well, good morning, everybody, and my name is Tim Ealer, meteorologist. I'm here to give you today's breakdown of the forecast. Also, talk about the potential for severe weather and the long-range outlook for cooler temps and increased rainfall for the southeast. I'm also going to go over the experimental precipitation, experimental severe weather probabilities, and discuss the flow pattern, height anomalies, things like that. Get into the weeds. So if you don't want to listen to me talk for 24 minutes, you can always switch to the timestamps and select what you want to look at. I'm also going to break down the temperatures region by region, future temps here, so y'all can see that. There's a lot to talk about today, so let's get started. So here's the day 3 to 7 U.S. hazards outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, valid the 4th through the 8th of 2026. And we can see the the heavy rainfall expected or possible here in parts of the southeast, um, mid-Atlantic, roughly right back to parts of Louisiana, Mississippi here, and up into parts of Virginia, uh, West Virginia, Kentucky here, back to Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, right, and even a frost freeze up here to the north. So, and high winds. So a lot of different dynamic system here moving through the flow during this period. Now, when we move on to the 8 to 14 day U.S. hazards outlook, this is good news for the southeast. At least right now with this outlook, they're expecting, well, not expecting, there's a slight risk of heavy precip, which means heavy rainfall the 9th through 11th. And for today, here is your excessive rainfall outlook. This is just centered on northern Florida, right? Parts of the Panhandle, southeast Georgia today. Not expecting a real big rainfall event, but we could get a couple inches here today. Now, for severe weather, we do have a slight risk here today of severe weather, level 2 out of 5. Journey from Bushnell, Florida, up till Valdosta, back toward Panama City, Brunswick, Georgia. A really small sliver of southeast Georgia here, and marginal risk down to Orlando as well. As for tornado, we do have a a marginal tornado risk here. Okay, 2%. Not expecting any real significant tornadoes here, but we could have a brief spin up, water spout, things like that today that move on shore. But I'm not expecting significant tornado here today. The biggest threat today is with winds, biggest meaning most coverage. 15% chance of winds exceeding 58 miles per hour, 50 knots, sorry, 58 miles per hour, within 25 miles of a given location, and a 5% risk in the brown area here, okay? So moving on to the hail risk. Let's keep clear my throat. Sorry, guys, just had breakfast. 5% hail risk here from Florida, Palm Bay, Florida, Sarasota, up towards southern Georgia here. Not expecting any significant hail, with maybe some 1-inch hailstones in here. Not that impactful today. Now, as far as a flood risk for tomorrow, the Weather Prediction Center does have a flood risk down in eastern Georgia here. All right, so we got to be mindful of that. Generally from Jupiter Inlet down to Homestead. And this is our severe threat to today. This moves up to Missouri. It's a marginal risk level 1 out of 5 here. From St. Louis, Jefferson City, back towards Kansas City. Okay. Mostly, we got a hail risk here, marginal hail risk, 5% risk of 1-inch hail within 25 miles of a location, and a wind risk as well. In St. Louis and Kansas City again, Springfield, Illinois, 5% wind risk and severe. Anyway, moving to the day 3 severe outlook, which is Sunday. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kansas City are on the severe risk. Ottawa, Chicago, Mount Vernon, Missouri, Nevada, Topeka, all within this risk of marginal severe weather, which means a 5% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of a given location, all the way back towards almost Cleveland here. So now as far as excessive rainfall for day 4, which is Monday, right? This is centered on Indiana, back towards parts of Illinois, through St. Louis, Jonesboro, Owensboro, Kentucky, back towards Cincinnati, Ohio as well. But a pretty large area here. Severe weather is also possible on Monday, back towards Dallas, Texas, Stevensville, up into Arkansas. Little Rock is part of this. El Dorado. Once again, we hear El Dorado all the time here. Mountain Home, the Cluster, Stigler, Fort Smith, Arkansas. I add more just to the southeast of Norman, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City here. And going into Tuesday, this is your excessive rainfall outlook. It moves further to the south and east here. Tennessee, parts of Tennessee, towards Newport, up towards parts of Kentucky, Lexington, Owensboro, back towards Memphis, Tennessee, back towards a little bit part of Arkansas here, a small portion of Mississippi and Alabama, larger portion of Alabama, and northwest Georgia as well. So quite a wide area here also. And again, we have severe weather possible on Tuesday as well. This is 1, 2, 3, day 5. Deep south, we'll be getting in on it again. In the southeast, Mississippi, Alabama, Little Rock, Arkansas, back towards parts of Texas, through Houston, along the Gulf Coast in New Orleans, parts of Louisiana to Lake Charles. And, this far out, 15% risk, gives us enough confidence to know that severe weather is possible. Well, this will likely change a little bit as the forecast becomes more clear and refined. So what this is a GFS Ensemble severe experimental probabilities tool. And what this shows is the 500 millibar height anomalies, right? And you see these blue numbers, 5, I guess, sigma. I don't know if the anomalies, how that's rated, but -5, whatever scale they use to determine that, okay? So negative, that's a pretty deep anomaly away from normal, below normal heights here, okay? Pretty deep trough swinging through the southeast, and that's why we get the rainfall here. Some Gulf moisture sweeping through, and we get the storm moving up the east coast eventually, right? And out west, we have some higher heights here with another 500 millibar trough, mid-level height falls out west. And this is where our severe probabilities are highest for today. Although the SPC has a highlight here, this GEFS ensemble, right? I always try to tell you this too. This is 30 members, right? And the little squiggly lines indicate each member, okay? But the dark line is the mean or average, okay? So it allows us to smooth out any changes in the ensemble, different ensembles. And what ensembles do is they take just slightly different initial conditions, because models struggle with exactly initial conditions. So by doing 30 of those, it helps smooth out the uncertainty, okay, especially as you get further out. Of course, errors are magnified further out, so the further out you get, the less certainty you have. So for today, not a lot of uncertainty with this, right? We can see that. Now, move through to tomorrow. I get this to move. The arrows don't work on this thing, so I have to click on it. So here in the southeast, we got a trough here, right? And that's why you have this excessive rainfall probabilities here. And it looks like maybe there's a disturbance moving down through the flow here, maybe on the back side of this. Kind of a, I don't see much here at 500 millibars, but you can see this one here, right? That's going to swing through. But this is where your severe probabilities in this general area for tomorrow are, right? See, this 500 millibar trough is spinning off the west coast here, okay? And in between, we have high pressure up to the north, okay? Now, going into Monday, this trough kind of swings through, and we have this trough still up here to the north. It kind of fills in a little bit, right? But we still have more of a northerly flow here. But what looks like another mid-level perturbation or something moving through the flow here. Although the anomalies, there's still quite a bit of uncertainty here with all these squiggly lines. So even into Monday, there's quite a bit of uncertainty. So quite a wide area of severe potential, but it looks to be centered here in eastern Oklahoma, at least right now. And we talked about that in the severe probabilities in my discussion, my forecast today, which you can get to in the timestamps if you want. All right, so that's the general 500 millbar flow. And you see what happens here into Tuesday, the 5th. You have this deep southerly flow here, right? And what's going to happen is this feature we picked up by this feature, they'll phase somewhere in here, I think. So what you're seeing here is enhanced severe probabilities in this area, which is the SPC, Storm Prediction Center, has outlined this area, potentially significant in this area. Maybe some short waves, depending on what happens here, moving through the flow, which could enhance things anywhere in this area. And maybe a slight severe risk up to the north here as well, with maybe another short wave or something moving through here. We'll have to see how that plays out. But you see the trough, and this being drawn up this way. So we move into the next day, which is Wednesday. Another broad southerly flow here with this trough and high pressure out to the east here, kind of getting flattened out, but it's you see how it's generally this way, right? Swinging through, maybe some short waves moving through. High pressure here, which is preventing this stuff from moving eastward, right? At least right now, okay? What's going to happen is this trough is going to swing through and eventually push a cold front through our area. And we have below normal temps here that can continue in the eastern seaboard. See how this sweeps through. The trough matures, but we have another one down here in the Baja, right? High pressure down here, high pressure up here, kind of pushing this southward, but this is pushing this eastward, right? Northeastward. Not pushing it, but guiding it. You know what I'm saying? That's the flow. You got it's going like this. It's not really cut off at this point. Severe weather potential is pretty broad up here on the eastern seaboard on Thursday. And the Storm Prediction Center has talked about the possibility of severe weather here, but there's too much uncertainty still about destabilization, things like that. And typically in the southeast, you're too far removed from the surface low or forcing to get a lot of severe weather, but we'll see how that plays out here. Into Friday, a trough is still driving cool air down this way. In the wintertime, this would be a very cold air mass and maybe some record temperatures here below normal, right? So you have a high pressure out to the west here, and maybe some thunderstorms out to the west. Maybe this trough, not that way. Maybe a trough swinging through here. Severe potential looks quite low at this point. If we get into a week out, I'm just going to go as far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, okay? That trough kind of gets pushed down to the south here. Doesn't really make it, although we've got some residual troughing going this way, it looks like, with a high pressure out west here. And to the south, we have a high pressure, but the flow is generally this way at this point, northerly, this way. All right, we get into Saturday. Well, we're into Saturday. Sunday, still a northerly flow here, high pressure out west. The flow from the Pacific is kind of cut off at this point. So you have this like that, trough like this, and you have precipitation again. So will that be severe weather? I don't necessarily think so because of the flow pattern and getting moisture back here, but we'll have to look at the other levels of atmosphere to determine that. And given it's 8 days out or so, it's going to be hard to determine at this point. and the models are all over the place with the different height falls and things. So what looks like a certainty to me is that it's going to transition for a little while to no a flow that's not off the Pacific for a little while here. If we move just a little bit further, let's just look at the trends here with the 500 millibars, upper mid to upper levels here. High pressure out west. General thunderstorms probably. Now we can look at general thunderstorm probability with this. It's kind of all over the place, right? Probably because of the resolution of the model at this point. So, we get this far out, hard to really tell, but maybe generally just disturbed weather in these areas. It pretty much covers the whole country, so I don't know how accurate this is. Remember, this is experimental, okay? Now we move into Tuesday with the flow. Once this is the GFS, and I could be totally wrong right at this point, but once we keep this mid-level feature here centered over the mid-Atlantic, high pressure out west, which will bring very warm temperatures out here, maybe record temperatures, I would say. Northerly flow just banging down here into the Gulf. Now, if we get a trough, let's see if this swings through here or not, at least according to this model. Maybe swings out. Tries to swinging out to sea here a little bit by the middle of the month with this high pressure maybe staying firmly placed and keeping severe weather at bay here. So at least that's the trend, right? We don't have that flow coming off this way, which could bring severe weather to the plains normally. We have more of a northwest flow. Now, could we get some ridge riders that come down this way? MCS type features? Maybe. Missile scale convective systems. And that's not uncommon this time of year. But it'd be more if the ridge was flattened here. So we'll have to look at that real quickly in the future radar next. So as far as temperatures for the weekend, what are we looking at here? Well, cooling off into the overnight hours pretty nicely here. Most of the continental U.S., maybe near 60 here into Texas, the southeast 50s, northeast 30s and 40s up here, up into the higher terrain and almost near freezing here, up in the UP Michigan in the 30s. Back out west to the north, 30s and 40s tonight, overnight, about 4 a.m. And out west, of course, the desert's quite warm, and the northwest is warm as well. All right, and moving into Sunday afternoon, warmer temps really build out here to the west, 50s and 60s. The exception of the northeast, maybe is in the 50s during the day tomorrow. Even that will be a relatively nice day. Maybe 70s to near 80 near in Oklahoma City. Of course, hotter here in the desert. All right, so ridging really far to the north here will bring warm temps all the way up into southern Canada. All right, now we move into a little bit further out. This is National Blend of Models, by the way. This is National Weather Service forecast temperatures. I like to use this because it's pretty accurate in general, right? You see what's happening here. We got some really hot temperatures, 80s and 90s here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma on Monday. 70s to near 80 degrees here in the southeast. Warming up nicely in the northeast, 60s and 50s. UP and Michigan, upper Michigan, getting a bit warm up nicely as well, 60s and 70s for highs. Not many freezing temps to be had here on Monday. It is May, so into the evening hours, cools off nicely. We see a short-term, short-wave ridging builds back here to the east, warms up a little bit here, right? And out west, we see that ridge starting to build in, 70s and 80s to Tuesday. All right, hottest temps here in Texas, mid-Atlantic, and the northwest here in the higher terrain here. All right, and even in the desert, not nearly as hot as it has been. Go over into Wednesday. See the warmer temps that push further to the south here, 70s and 80s. About near normal, I would say, anywhere, in the deep south, exception of maybe down here in southern Texas, 90 degrees. That's pretty dang hot. even into Florida, we have this really this heat potential here. So let's look at that real quick. See, we do have this slight risk of above normal, much above normal temperatures here in southern Florida, up into down in the desert, the 9th through the 14th, 9th through the 12th, and the 9th through the 10th here in this whole area. The 9th, we have a moderate risk of below normal temps. 9th and the 10th, we have this slight risk. So that's definitely something to look at, okay? So we go back to Wednesday into Thursday, warming up a lot again out west here. Troughiness building to the east here. 60s and 70s through the day on Wednesday, cooling off nicely. And then onto Friday, maybe warming up again in central Oklahoma, Texas. Most of the nation above freezing here, almost all of it. 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, depending where you're at. And we get into Saturday of next week, which is a week from now, around 2 p.m. Looks forecast to be pretty nice here in most of the continental U.S., with the exception of the desert. We talked about this, the potential heat, record temperatures, not record, but above normal temps here. All right, 97, 100, 102. Man, it's going to be scorcher out here. In the California valleys here, 90s, 100, maybe. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll have to keep an eye on that with that ridging building out west here. Now, so overall, doesn't look to be too terrible, but as far as temperatures go, with the exception of maybe some cooler temps up here in the mid-Atlantic, maybe the Northeast, and the Midwest here, with maybe hotter temperatures down here in Florida and out west. And I haven't showed this in a while, whether this is a 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. We talked about this, the ridging out west, and which will bring below normal temps to the east of the Rockies for at least till the middle of the month here, okay? And what does that mean for precip? Well, above normal precip chances, at least to the 15th, generally in the southern part of the United States into the Northeast, right? You can see where the green is compared to the brown, with a below normal on the northwest coast persisting here. We get out 3 to 4 weeks from May 1st, which was yesterday. We start returning to this below normal precip regime along the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, with above normal precip chances returning back here in the central U.S. and parts of the deep south, and out west here, the Mountain West, with above normal temperatures looking pretty likely here for most of the U.S., with the exception of the area where you have the below normal area here already. Even Alaska and Hawaii are in on it. So maybe a small sliver of the northern tier of the U.S. may have equal chances. So we're just going to see how this plays out, but that's the forecast as of right now. I appreciate you all watching. I know this is a longer video, but I went over a lot of things today because it's Saturday, had more time. Appreciate you all watching. God bless you all. Have a good day.